me ask you something. When was the last time you actually enjoyed your life? Because most of us were raised to be good girls, not grounded women. Most of us were taught to be polite, not powerful. Taught to make everything work and make everyone else happy except ourselves. And eventually, that catches up to you, especially in motherhood, where everything is brought to the surface. All of our woundings, all of our triggers, all the things are right there in front of our face. You wake up in a life that looks fine on paper, but is actually a slow leak. Like something's missing, but you can't quite name it. Like you've been surviving your own life instead of actually living it. And that's where I was until I started to pay attention to the low vibe things that were actually draining the color, draining the joy out of my days and out of my life. These are things women do that are stuck in survival mode. Habits that feel normal, even justified, but are secretly eroding your peace, stealing your presence, and completely depleting your power and your energy. So today I'm walking you through 3 low vibe things that I stopped doing to feel more like myself again, as a woman, not just as a mom. Hi, I'm Angela, hypnotherapist, somatic guide, and founder of the Motherwell app, where I help women rewire their brains, regulate their nervous system, and turn the joy back on in their lives again, helping them feel like themselves again. So if you're here because you are chronically exhausted, drained by your own life, and tired of feeling like a background character in it, then stick around, definitely hit subscribe. So let's get into low vibe habit number 1 that I stopped doing and completely cut out, and that is I stopped being chronically bothered. I stopped being bothered. There comes a point where you realize you're not actually overwhelmed by motherhood. You're overwhelmed by your own resistance to what is, to your reality. The crumbs, the noise, the dishes in the sink, they're not the thing that's burning you out. It's your relationship with them. That constant micro resistance to what is. And I get it. I used to live in this constant state of irritation. My nervous system was so on edge anytime any little thing would happen, or it was just preparing for something to happen. I was constantly bracing myself for life instead of actually living it. And that bothered energy, it seeps into everything. Your tone, the way you are with your partner, how you show up with your kids. Even the way I breathed, I couldn't fully exhale. My breath could only live in my chest. I couldn't even get a deep breath. I was just constantly elevated, activated, on edge, and bothered by everything. Irritated. But at some point I had to ask myself, am I actually irritated right now, or have I just become addicted to being annoyed? Is this just my baseline state of being? And what I've learned is that being bothered, staying in that energy, it's not just draining, it becomes your identity. It becomes the way you know yourself. And it also becomes the way that others expect and know you too. And I know so many moms who do this. I once listened to a client literally complain for 20 minutes about the way her husband loaded the dishwasher. All of that wasted energy on cutlery placement, okay? And I get it. It was probably a diabolical way that he was loading this dishwasher, but she was getting so activated, so bothered by this, that it was draining her energy long after this had even happened. It was continuing to fester and grow. And of course, at some point, it's no longer about the dishwasher. It's something else that's going on beneath the surface. It's about getting to the root of what is truly bothering you in the first place. What has you so bothered? And when you learn the art of being unbothered, when you finally drop it and you stop being the manager of all the things and the martyr of all the unmet expectations, trying to manage the energy and make sure that everybody feels good and is happy and you're getting all the things done so that you're not disappointed. When you finally let it go, you do not become less powerful. You become more peaceful. There is a difference between caring and clutching, between having standards and just needing control, between making things better and always needing something to fix. Being unbothered is not passive. It is so powerful. It is the feminine art of emotional discernment. Now, this doesn't mean that you're living in a state of chaos and letting everything go and you're completely, again, it's not passive, okay? This is an art. This is an energy. This is discernment. This is a way of being, and it's going to take intentional practice for you. But once you start to build that awareness and notice how that underlying state of being bothered is happening even before the moment where you actually are bothered, you start to pick it up and you start to catch it before it becomes your whole mood. Ask yourself, will this matter in 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days, 5 years? And most of the time, it won't. And if the answer to that question is no, you let it go. I started to let things go. Not because I didn't care, but because I finally did care about me, about my peace, about my energy, about my joy. And when a woman reclaims her nervous system in that way, everyone else around you is going to meet you in that. They're going to feel it. You set the tone. Your energy sets the tone. Low vibe habit number 2 that I stopped doing, I stopped having these insane expectations. I lowered my expectations, but not my standards. And there is a big difference between lowering your standards and lowering your expectations. And this is where most women get them confused. Standards are rooted in your self-worth, in your values. And expectations are usually rooted in some type of fantasy, some type of imaginary state. And I had to learn this the difficult way, which is why I'm sharing it with you so that you can have an easier time figuring this out and letting these things go sooner. I had high standards for the type of partner that I wanted to be, for the kind of mother I was becoming, for the woman that I wanted to embody. But my expectations, those were curated from social media clips and highlight reels and Pinterest boards and what other moms were doing that I should be doing or that I wasn't doing right. A lot of it was rooted in my own subconscious guilt from the way I was or wasn't showing up. I was expecting peace and ease without ever creating the structure or the foundation to hold it. I expected my partner to mind read and just anticipate my needs. I expected my kids to know how to regulate, to self-regulate better than I even knew how to regulate and self-regulate. I expected to balance it all while still holding this deep-rooted belief that I was never enough, never doing enough. And it burnt me out. So I started getting honest with myself. I started asking myself, is this a sacred standard of mine? Does this come from me, truly? Or is this just pressure, conditioning, something that I picked up from someone else, from somewhere else? I started to really pay attention to the subconscious patterns that were showing up in my life and that were actually driving these expectations in the first place. And when I lowered the expectations that were built on martyrdom and perfectionism and performance, I got to raise the standard of how I actually felt. My peace and my happiness became the new metric. Not productivity, not aesthetics, not approval. And let me tell you, life started feeling a whole lot lighter and a whole lot better. A whole lot like mine again. Low vibe habit number 3. I stopped treating myself like a side character. This is the one that really changed everything. I realized that I had been building a life, that I had built a life where everyone else's needs and happiness were centered except mine. And not because anyone forced me into that role, but I kept putting myself there. I called it being a good mom, being a good wife, being a good friend, sister, whatever. All of these roles that I was carrying and ridiculous expectations that I had placed on myself. But really, it was just self-abandonment. I would shrink my needs. I would defer my own dreams and desires. I would minimize my voice. I would morph into whoever I needed to be to make sure that people were pleased. Anyone else? Recovering people pleaser. Because somewhere along the way, and I can pinpoint this and see the pattern that conditioned me to feel this way, to identify this way, I had learned that being a woman meant being a container of comfort for everyone else. But I'm not a container, and I am certainly not a background character or side character, and I am not here to orbit around other people's lives. So I stopped making myself an afterthought. I stopped waiting for the right time to take care of myself. I stopped treating my own joy and passion and fulfillment like it was a luxury and instead like it was oxygen. And that meant asking better questions. What would it look like to really hold myself in the center of my life without guilt? What would it feel like to mother from a place of overflow instead of depletion and lack? And then I started doing little things differently, talking to myself kindly, speaking kindness, washing myself in kindness and love, buying clothes that fit now and not 15 pounds from now, saying no without having to over-explain myself or fluff it up to make it sound good enough, tending to my needs, to my nervous system, like it was a living altar, making space, making room, making time for beauty, for pleasure, for passion, for my own desires, for time with myself, for slowness, for stillness, even if there were still dishes in the sink or something that I did not get to check off of my to-do list. Because when I'm well cared for, when I feel good, everyone else is more well cared for. Everyone else feels good. And this is not about doing anything more. In fact, I'm doing so much less, and I'm finally in my life instead of just managing it. So this is your permission slip if you needed one. If you are waiting for a moment to change everything, this is it. And you do it in these small ways. You don't need to do more or prove yourself to have and find peace, to feel happy, to find joy. You don't need to wait on it either. You do not need to earn the right to feel good and alive in your life. You simply need to start letting go. Start letting go of the things that are weighing you down. So here's the recap and what you're gonna do. Stop being emotionally available to every single annoyance, aka stop being chronically bothered and be in the artful expression of being unbothered. Trust me, life gets so much better when you do. Drop the fantasy expectations and raise the standard of how you feel. And for the love of your own life, stop treating yourself like a side character or background character in your own reality, in your own world and existence. This is not about self-care. This is self-respect. This is honoring yourself. And in doing that, you are modeling that to the little ones that you care about the most, for the people that you are doing it all for in the first place. You get to come home to the woman underneath it all. She has been waiting for you, trust that. And she has invited you into this evolution of yourself. This is what motherhood has been asking you to heal into all along. And if you want the tools, if you need the support to help you stay or get connected with her, the Motherwell app is here for that. Inside, you'll find nervous system resets, hypnosis meditation, somatic guided movement practices that make all of this feel more natural and not forced, that help you heal the deep-rooted reasons why you might be stuck in these patterns in the first place. And there is a free trial for you linked in the description below. And if these shifts really resonated with you and you're wanting to continue this journey, coming back to yourself, reconnecting with yourself, you're gonna love my video, 5 micro habits for a real glow up. This is where we go deep, none of the fluff, none of the surface level stuff, to help you feel really, really good from the inside out. So I'll see you over there in that video, or I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.